Hello everyone, I am Chiranjeevi and you are watching episode 6 of Rush series. In this episode, we are going to see about Prelude and how we can take input from the user in runtime and little bit about strings. And let's dive in. For this purpose, let's create a new project. I am inside my projects folder. So I am using the command cargo new. And if you have any doubt regarding cargo, do check out the episode 2 of Rush series where I have discussed about cargo. So I'm giving this project the name user input. So I'm clicking enter. So it created the project. So in the project we get some default files. So out of them what we need is a main.rs file where we can write our Rust code. So here we got some default lines. So let's leave it like that. Now what we need to do is we have to take user input. Where will the user give you input? So when we are running program like this, we usually give input in this terminal. So to take whatever that is being given to this terminal, we need to have access to this terminal. So what we call the terminal or console in programming language is standard input. So we need access to this standard input so that we can get whatever that is being given in that terminal or console or standard input. So to get that, what we need to do is we have to import a package or a crate which is standard library. So to import or to use a library or a crate, what we have to do is we have to use keyword use. So after this we have to specify the name of the package. So the name of the package is standard or std for short. So in this particular crate or library, what we need right now for our purpose to take user input is a particular module called IO. So IO module deals with the functions that are related to input and output. So to specify a particular module, what we have to use is we have to use double colons. So what we are saying is we need a module that is named IO, which is inside the standard crate or library. So what we have to do is we have to specify IO. So now we have to put semicolon at the end of the line. So now what we have to do is we have to use this IO module to get our reference to the standard input so that we can get the data. So what we have to do is we have to use this module. We are specifying there is a function called stdin. So this stdin function is inside that IO module. That's what we are specifying. So we are specifying that we are using the stdin function which is inside IO module. So this stdin function will return the reference to that terminal where we are going to give input. So we have to store it somewhere. So let's create a variable let stdin which will take the reference to this terminal which is given by this stdin function. Now what we have to do? We have to do is we have to, let's say we are giving some input like this randomly. We have to read this to somewhere in our some variable in our program. So what we have to do is we have to use the reference that we got of the terminal and use the function read underscore line. What this will do is this will take a variable reference as input and will store whatever that is being taken from the user and store it in that variable. So we need to create a variable to store the values. So what we do is let this variable value is going to be changed in the next line. So we have to make it as mutable. So, and we have to give the name. Let's say we are taking user's name as input. So let's call this as name is equal to, we have to initialize it with some value. So the username is a string. So let's initialize it with a empty string. This is how you initialize a empty string. So this is a string type and we are calling a new method on it which will return a empty string and which will be assigned to name variable. So now what we have to do is to this readline function we have to pass this name variable so that whatever we are giving as input can be stored in this name. See here, we are specifying this something called this ampersand symbol. This is what we call as ampersand and mute and the name of the variable. So this ampersand symbol is going to give the reference, the address of this name variable. So what we said before is we are going to pass the reference to the variable where we are going to store this value. So a reference can be given using this ampersand symbol. Since this is a mutable variable, we are giving mute also and name of the variable. So now what we are going to do is we are going to read whatever that is going to give here is going to store in the variable name. Now we have to specify one other thing. What if there is no input? What if we are not able to read the input? So there we are going to specify that inside this expect. So if something happens against our expectation, we are going to specify not able to read. So this is what we are going to show in the console if we are not able to read what we wanted to. So this is how it's going to be. Now let's print this. Let's use print ln and let's print this. How do we print this? We use placeholder to print variables name. Oh, I forgot to put semicolons everywhere. Make sure you put semicolons. Now save it and run this. How do we run a program using cargo? Cargo space run. Before doing this, make sure you are going inside this user input folder. Otherwise it will throw an error. cd user input. Now let's use cargo space run and press enter. So as you can see, it compiled and it's running and it printed hello world as expected. Now the program didn't end. If it had been ended, it would show this thing to enter something else, but it's not ended. It's waiting for us to give some input because we use this function called readline. Now we have to give it something. What we wanted to give? We wanted to give some name of the user. I'm giving my name Chiranjeevi. Now if I press enter, what we are going to expect is it should print this name using this println function. I'm pressing enter and it printed that name and the program execution stopped. Let's just update our code a little bit. It's not going to change any functionality, but it's going to look a little bit better when we see it. So applying functions like this on result of another function is what we called as function chaining. So we are chaining these functions together using this dot, and if there is another function which we are going to chain, we will keep dot and we will add that function. So when we are using function chaining like this, it is better to write them as like this. So we are going to see all the functions listed like this if you are going to chain multiple functions like this. So this is not going to change anything related to functionality, but it's just going to look a little bit better. Also, let's change this line as my name is and this thing, so that we can see something different. Like it's just printing my name twice, we can see something different. So let's save it and run it again. So it's asking name, let's give it name. So it's printing my name is Chiranjeevi. Let's talk about strings a little bit. So as we said, this is going to return a empty string. What is a string? A string is nothing but a collection of characters. So when multiple characters are grouped together, it's a string. So as you can see, there are other strings in this program as well. Here, this is a collection of characters. This is also a string. This is collection of characters. This is also a string. Why can't when we wanted an empty string, why didn't we use just like this? This is also an empty string, nothing inside, but this is also a string. Why didn't we do this and we did this? So there is a reason for that. Now let's see what it is. There are two things in Rust. One thing is called string slice and another one is string type. So a string slice, whatever we have seen here, these and this inside expect, this inside println, this inside println, all these are string slices. So when we use string slice and when we use a string type, to create a slice, we need to know the size of it when running that line, at that line. So when we are trying to create a slice, we need to know that size at the line where we are trying to create it. But when it is going to be that string type that we use in our program, we don't need to know this. We don't need to know size. So why is this? This is because there is this major difference between the slice and the string, which is the slice is going to be stored in stack and this string is going to be stored in heap. So what is the stack and heap, you may ask? So basically we talked about memory a lot of times in this series. So in the memory, the way we store our data, we can store it in two different ways. One way is this stack and other way is this heap. So if you know about stack and heap, it's well and good. Otherwise, a stack is going to look like a big jar or a container where you can put things inside and take out inside. So whatever you put first will be stay at the last, and later what you put will be stay on the top, and so on. So if you put something inside, to take it out, you have to take all these out first. So basically whatever that is put first will come out last. So basically this is a stack, and heap is going to look like a tree, you can say, but there are some special features to it. So basically this is a heap. So what's the major difference between stack and heap? So whatever data you are going to store in compile time is going to store in this stack by default. So basically if you know the data what you are storing in compile time, it's going to store it in stack. If you don't know what you are going to store and how much size it's going to be taken in the compile time, it's going to store it in heap. So in our case, if you see this program, we are taking the input in runtime. So let's say if it in case of an integer or a float, we can specify that it is i32 or f32 or f64, whatever it is. It's clearly saying the size, 32 bits or 64 bits. It's clearly saying the size. So we can easily store it in stack. But when it comes to string, a string of this length is going to take some space. A string of this much bigger length is going to take some other size. So we don't know what size the string takes. But when it is coming in compile time, we know the length. So we know the size of it. Here also we know it in compile time, so we know the length. But when it comes to taking input, we don't know what the user is going to give. So I am giving Chiranjeevi. Someone can give a bigger name or a shorter name. We don't know what the size is. So we need to store it inside heap. That is a major difference between string slice and a string variable. Let's wrap this video by talking about Prelude. So for that, I am at the documentation of Rust, and here you can see the crate std, which we used in our program. So this is the crate that we used for IO module, where we got the stdin function. So this is that particular crate. So if you see, there are different modules inside this. So these are all modules, everything related basically which we need for basic programming, all are there here as modules. So each module has their own functions divided with the functionality, like every function that is related to IO will be inside IO module, and everything that is related to threads will be inside threads module, like that. So here there is something called Prelude. This is also a module. So if you see here, the Prelude is the list of things that Rust automatically imports into every Rust program. So basically there is one module, one particular module inside this std or standard library or crate in Rust, which will load everything that is basic for a program. If you see, we are using this println function, but we never specified from which crate or which module it is coming from. That is because it is part of that Prelude module. So Rust will automatically load that Prelude module into any program, and we can use it without specifying anything. So that is the reason why we never specified the module or package where this println function is coming from, and we are using it for granted. So that is all about Prelude. That's pretty much it for this video. Make sure you like this video if you find it useful, and please share it with others, and please make sure you subscribe to this channel for future episodes of Rush series.